Want This Done Divorce podcast. And I'm your host, Rayford Palmer. With me, as always, the great Rahul Iyer. And we've got a
Right.
fully loaded show for you today. And hope you're having a nice Thursday. Here in Chicago, it's like 0 degrees out. So we're staying warm. I got the quarter zip with the Notice law firm name on here. Very swanky. Rahul was wearing a shacket earlier, which is very
Yes.
fashionable. And are you doing the flannel?
I'm doing the flannel. It's flannel
Nice,
season. Well, it's probably
nice.
past flannel season, but
Flannel SZN, as the kids
that's,
say.
as the youth
So
say.
the Utes. So, all right, let's get right into this show. We got some good stuff here. So we're gonna sound the horn because we got exciting news updates here. First of all, we're gonna launch right into the show. So the tease and please for today for you, because we are broadcast professionals, and at this point, episode 45 is this show, by the way. So at the end of the show, you got to wait because at the end of this one, we're going to talk about Tinder's 2026 dating trends. They just came out with this yesterday. So this is hot info. And we've got the blaming men for the dating crisis. So we're gonna dig into that one. I'm sure that'll get people fired up. Okay. And then we've got a legal issues to talk about in the show. We always talk about one kind of solid legal topic or two and then some divorce news. So here we go. So starting with this one, the Love is Blind's Alexa and Brennan Lemieux announced split 1 year after welcoming daughter. So here's the scoop. This is a Love is Blind stars Alexa and Brennan Lemieux are getting a divorce. Alexa posted their joint statement to Instagram. Now, no, we've talked about this many times before in the show. Celebs always do these. The smart ones get their PR teams together and they do a joint statement. So they're on the same page and they're careful about their public image. So
Celebs,
they,
right? In this case,
yeah, exactly. So
like in air quotes.
yeah, air quotes. So they did put the collabs, right? So they did a joint statement. It's Wednesday, December 3rd. So this is fresh. They're ending their marriage after 4 years. Okay, giving up so soon. I query. The former couple met on season 3 of Love is Blind. So it's setting the stage for a perfect long-term relationship. They tied the knot on camera July 2021. They welcomed their daughter in July 2024. Now, the statement began with the pair sharing, after much reflection and many heartfelt conversations. This is a quote from their statement. They made the difficult decision to divorce. The quote is, "This choice was not made lightly. It comes with a great deal of care, respect, and appreciation for the time we shared." Great statement, very well crafted, and sounds kind of like what you usually see with the celebrities. And then they explain more stuff about their relationship, and hopefully they mean it. I mean, I assume they do, but it's definitely a positive way to approach this. And they post a statement. This is a People magazine story published just yesterday by Sharma Flam or Flam. And but the comment the thing I thought about was they asked for privacy and their daughter's top priority, which is really good. That's the right focus. Um, the woman Alexa previously told People she credited the series for playing a huge role in their relationship. Well, but of course that's how you met.
That's how you
So
met.
on a show
That's
where
your
you're not
origin
allowed to
story.
yeah, and you're not allowed to see the person, right? And that's the theory is you're supposed to talk about their brain and everything
Yeah,
and then
behind like a wall, and you just right.
yeah, and then you see them later. So you have to discern from their voice and everything who they are.
There's a big reveal if they match. I've seen a few
Okay.
episodes of a season. They had a season in Chicago, so I knew a few of the contestants, and
Yeah. In
it's
July, she
interesting.
posted to Instagram to mark their fourth anniversary. This is a quote from her. "Happy 4 years to my lobster. Thank you for being my person." Your lobster? What? Maybe that
It's
was the straw that broke the camel's back. I never
trying to
knew I
figure out
could
the
love someone.
analogy.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I never knew I could love someone the way I love you, blah, blah, blah. You still give me butterflies. Well, that's nice. So, on a side note, when people profess their love for each other on social, doesn't that kind of make you cringe, Rahul?
Yeah, I think so. I think that might be sort of a generational gap, but it's
Oh, okay.
definitely extremely cringeworthy for me. I uh I'm also kind of a private person,
Yeah.
so I see that as being very, very like cringeworthy,
Well, don't
uncomfortable,
you just
whatever.
don't you just tell your wife you love her? You don't have to
Yeah,
put it out there for
you
everybody
don't have to. Right, exactly.
and say, "Oh, I love my wife." Well, we don't doubt that. You're married to her. Why are you?
Right.
It's like
Exactly,
you
right?
know. Is there
I'm
something
just
we don't?
hanging out.
Is there something we don't know about? The joke is whenever you know that whole meme that's like when they post the photo together, it's like the fall photo,
Oh,
then the
yeah.
relationship's in trouble. You know
Yeah. You have
when
to
they
go out of the way to show people it's okay.
right. Well, so okay, the last comment I had on this was that we get calls from potential clients and do consultations. And I had one recently where it was a guy and he's like, things are rough, man. Things are rough, you know? And I said, okay, well, what's the deal? Well, we've been married a few years, 4 or 5 years, and we have two children. Well, how old are they? Like 3 and 1, well, I said, well, nothing's going to be fun right now. you know, it's
It's kind
not
of the point.
about you. Yeah. You have two young kids. The thrill is going to be gone for a while. I got to tell you, now date night is important. And you've got to remember to date each other in the middle of that, especially when you have little kids. But it's going to be tough. Kids are tough. They're worth it, but that's going to be it's not going to be fun and games. So anyway, that's my 2 cents for you folks out there. So hang in there. If you're in that situation, give the kids to the in-laws and go out on date night. Dr. Rafe will save your marriage for you. You don't have to come in and hire us. So we are the pro marriage divorce lawyers. There you have it.
Dr. Rafe, like Dr. Pepper, not an actual doctor.
I'm a juris doctor.
Oh, that's true. Yes, you're right. You're right.
In
Yes.
Europe, they actually call you doctor. I had a lawyer one time call me from Europe. It's like, Dr. Palmer. I'm like, oh, wow. I'm going to wear like a lab coat, walk around the law firm,
That's why they wear those
Okay.
wigs,
Yeah, exactly.
powdered wigs.
So, Rahul, tell us about this. This is a big one. Got another big name in the news finally for divorce. What's the scoop?
Yeah. So, former, very, very top ranking tennis player, Anna Ivanovic. I don't know if she was ever world number one or not, but she's definitely up there. And I think she might have been a Grand Slam winner. Has filed for divorce from her spouse after 9 years of marriage. She's married to retired soccer pro Bastian Schweinsteiger, I guess is how
Easy
you
for you
say
to
it.
say.
Right? And of course, they filed in Munich. Sounds like that's where he's from. She's from
Okay.
Serbia, and they're citing irreconcilable differences. So it sounds like Germany also has that as a no fault sort of a jurisdiction. But
Yeah.
according to this article on New York Post, it sounds like it might have been as a result of some extramarital affairs, etc.,
Uh-oh.
potentially, as reported in the article by him. And so they uh, have 3 children, and she lives in Spain, and I think he lives in Germany, and or maybe lives elsewhere, but that's where they filed. So should be
Okay.
interesting. We'll keep our finger on the pulse, and maybe it'll be interesting to see how divorces happen in Germany.
Yeah, I guess he played for the Chicago Fire, our hometown soccer team,
Yeah, they lived here for a while.
which I wasn't aware of. And
Mhm.
she appears to be taller than him, but maybe she's wearing heels, so that could be.
Well, she's actually pretty tall because I think tennis players in Eastern Europe
got
are very tall, and I think
yeah,
soccer players are generally very short. So
rampant and reckless speculation. Her being taller than him probably rough on the relationship. Don't know for sure, but that's unscientific
yes,
rumor on my part. But
exactly.
to give his what they say camp in this article from New York Post credit, they said Schweinsteiger's camp, and I think I pronounced that right, told
Mhm.
Bild, which is a German website, was a magazine. He and
Yes,
Ivanovic do not discuss private matters. Good for him.
very good, very good.
That's the right response. And going dark on social. Don't need to tell the media. Just positive messaging and then leave it at that. And that's a lesson for all of us. So
Mhm.
hope that goes smoothly for them. But yeah, we'll update everybody and keep you informed on that one because it'll be interesting, like you said, to see what's the German divorce law like, and is there anything unique about it?
Right, and how prenups work there, etc. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for that. So this is a kind of short note. We've been talking about the Scott Wolf and Kelly Wolf divorce case, and Kelly's had some challenges. She has been admitted to a psychiatric, some kind of psychiatric treatment. It looks like it's an inpatient thing. And Scott obtained a restraining order, or what they call a TPO, a temporary protective order. We call it an order of protection in our state. He obtained it against her, and there were some real troubling issues there that we've talked about in the past. He filed for divorce June 9th. She was placed days later on a psychiatric hold at a Utah hospital, which they call a 5150 hold, which of course is a great Van Halen album, by the way. And I think named that for that reference. But in a Utah hospital due to a friend's concern for her mental health, he filed for a restraining order, and he's since dropped the order voluntarily. So apparently she was arrested following days of social media posts doxing friends and family members. She exposed Scott's personal phone number, communications with her and the children, a lot of stuff you just shouldn't do. And she didn't follow our guidance, which is go dark on social media. She instead blew up on social, and it got her in a lot of trouble. So word to the wise, keep it dark on social media. Don't blow up your spouse or post personal information, personal communications. That's all a no-no, and you'll get in trouble with the court.
No good can come of it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just please don't. So anyway, that's still kind of ongoing, and she's receiving treatment. So we hope she gets better. And it's no joking matter. Mental health is serious stuff. So, okay, turning to our legal issue of the day. Rahul, what we've come up with this issue recently in some couple cases we've been handling at the law firm. And the question is, what is the lawyer's role versus the client's role? And we talk about the ethical responsibilities and our legal duties according to our contractual relationship and our ethical duties to our clients. So there's this question about what is our role as a lawyer? What decisions are we allowed to make as the attorney for the client in handling the case? And what's in the client's purview to decide? So I just wanted to have a conversation with you about that, because I don't think people understand necessarily the demarcation line between what is our job and what's sort of their role, and what happens when the two collide. So I guess first, can you address this issue of the decision-making that's in the client's purview? Let's start with that. What is the client allowed to decide or tell us to do, so to speak?
So the client really wants to tell us what their goals are. What am I looking to achieve, and whether, those goals may or may not be in line with what the law requires. They want to tell us, these are the outcomes I like, and these are the factual things that you may not know about my life and my case. It's the attorney's role to determine how to get to that goal. So I think that's the cleanest way to say that is,
Right.
you tell me what you want, I'll make it. It's sort of like we've talked about in the past. It's like you're at a restaurant, you're sitting at the table as the customer at the restaurant, and you tell the waiter, hey, this is what I'd like to eat from the menu. The waiter might ask you, would you like that mild, medium, or spicy?
Right.
Or would you like how much, some customizations there.
Sure.
But and that's the extent of that. And then when the meal comes out, you'll have your meal.
Right.
Versus being the guy who says, hey, let's go back and let's make this food together. Let me sort of talk to you about how much salt to add in this meal, or what ingredients to use, etc. No, the attorney kind of takes care of preparation, deciding what needs to be used. It can be a collaborative function insofar that once the attorney has made the determination, the two of them can talk.
Right. It's to some extent, clients understandably get concerned about the direction their case is going, or want to know how it's working. And we have a duty to keep them informed, provide them with copies of things, tell them what's going on. And then, like you said, though, we can't have two people driving the bus. You tell us where to go, but we're going to drive, and we're going to do it the way we see fit. And I think an example, so to give an example that is something you can sink your teeth into, if a client says, if a trial date is approaching in a case, let's say, and we're going to prepare for that trial according to our normal protocols. We have to prepare in advance. There's a lot of work that has to be done by our staff and our attorneys in advance of a trial. We can't just slam into a trial and show up and start arguing the case. We have exhibit books to prepare, which involves a lot of work on that behalf of the paralegals. We have to do a lot of documentation and prep in advance, and that takes a lot of time. And so we have to plan that out well in advance and start doing it in advance. And the client may think, well, we might settle, so why are you doing this? Or if they do settle the case at some point close to the trial date, they may say, well, why did you do all that work? Well, because we can't pick. We have to have the thing ready to go on the day the trial starts. And if we settle the day before, well, now it's easy to say I didn't need it, but you didn't know you're going to settle the day before. So we have to be ready, and it's expensive. The preparation that we have learned, the prep is, our rule of thumb is preparation is 2 times as expensive as the actual trial. Roughly.
I thought it was 3, but yeah, two
Yeah,
2
2
to
or 3
4,
times.
depending on the issues.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And so, even if you partially prepare because you think, well, okay, I'll hold off on some of this, but I'm going to get some of the mandatory things done, it's going to take time and money. But you must be prepared, because the one thing you can't predict is what's the other side going to do. You don't have any guarantees. And if you walked into trial unprepared, you'd get in trouble for that. That's malpractice. So this is where it's important to understand that demarcation line is, like you were saying, the food analogy is great. I get to order a steak and say if I want it medium rare, whatever. But the chef prepares it. I can't go in the kitchen and start slapping the steak around and stuff like that. You get thrown out of the restaurant. That's the same analogy. And there are sticky wickets where a client will say, I don't want you to do X, Y, and Z because I'm convinced my wife or husband's going to do A, B, C. And then you have to assert your role. And it might be that we have to part ways because we don't agree on how to move forward. And that's where there becomes a conflict of interest, where the client's telling us to fight with one arm tied behind our back, and we're not going to do that.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. And you settle cases best by preparing for trial.
Right.
You can't settle a case by preparing for settlement, because then you're going to be caught with your pants between, pants down. So it's until it's signed, you move forward as if it's going to go to trial. And the closer it gets, the closer it is, because the last thing you want to do is be unprepared, because the other side could be playing you as well by not committing, by saying, yeah, we'll settle. And then maybe that's how they play, and maybe they will settle, but you can't do that, because you'll be doing your client a disservice and maybe in violation of your ethical obligations to your client under the model rules of professional conduct. So there's that. You know what's funny about the analogy, the food analogy, is you used a steak example, and when I used my example, it was like mild, medium, spicy, which is sort of like you would go get at an Asian or at an Indian restaurant, which is really funny about our food preferences.
Well, I like Mexican. So when you said that, I've seen that in Mexican where you're making guac and they always make it real mild. So I have to say, make it spicy, get the jalapenos in there.
Right.
So now I'm going to get Mexican food. That my family teases me that all I want to do is get Mexican food all the time, but I could eat it three times a day.
Oh, that's me too. That's me too.
It's one of my favorites. So yeah. So no, it's a good point that it's just important to know that distinction and say, we'll do the painting for you, but you want the art from us. And you can tell us, I want an impressionist painting, or I want a cubist painting, or something else, but we're going to do the painting. So if you want to do the painting, don't hire us. Mm-hmm. If you want to do it yourself, mm-hmm. That's fine. But that's not, you're hiring us for our experience, and we're on the line. We have our licenses on the line ethically, and we have a legal obligation to the client when we're representing you in a non-limited basis. And there is such a thing as limited scope representation. But if we're representing you in a normal, full-on representation, we have to do the work, and we're going to do it the way that we see fit. And if the client's not happy with that, they're free to let us go. But that's just how business is done in this world. And we're not special that way. That's just how lawyers operate. So it has to be that way. You don't go in and the plumber comes in, you're like, I need a new toilet. And he goes in there and you're like, hey, no, wait a second. And you're saying use a different gasket and no, don't put it in that way. And the guy's gonna walk out of the house. So
Exactly.
it's the same deal. All right, we don't want to beat this to death. So let's go through some audience questions. Rahul, this is a good one from one of our audience members. In this case, the person says, I'm in the middle of a divorce after months of asking my soon-to-be ex what they want to do with our marital home that I'm living in currently. I received no response. I filed a petition to sell the house 60 days ago. Still no response. During this time, we've been in financial mediation, which is something we do in the Chicago area for certain cases. Soon-to-be ex has told the mediator he will wait until the court date to answer. Court date is set for tomorrow. This was posted a few days ago on our divorce support network. At the same time, the GAL, guardian ad litem, okay, now we're switching gears to children, so we have a two-parter here. They want us to go with 50-50 parenting time. During this time, the guardian drafted an allocation judgment. Kind of interesting. I don't know, it's not typical. But the allocation judgment, which is our custody judgment document, and this person says, it seems super generic. I haven't reviewed it yet. There seems to be a lot of language like, upon agreement of the parties, I'm putting in air quotes for those of you listening. Two questions. Are the house and the kids separate, or do we have to wait until the parenting judgment is official in order to sell the house? Is it worth hiring a third party, aka a lawyer? It sounds like this person's self-represented. I'm not sure. To draft an allocation judgment or parenting agreement, which includes more protective language. So, Rahul, let's boil this down. One is the judge going to sell the house in the middle of the case, which is really what the first question is. Number two, can we get an allocation judgment that I call a computer program, where if A happens, B happens, prescriptive, like hardwired, or does it have to be flexible? Three, so really it's like one of them is an order of operations. Is the court going to sell the house during the divorce case? Number one. Number two, can we wire up a really like tightly wound parenting agreement? Those are really the two questions.
Okay. So great question. So house sales, right? So this is a really good question because the law just recently, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe less than that, changed on this. And again, as we always say, this is based on Illinois law. We're Illinois attorneys and based out of the Chicagoland area, and your mileage in your jurisdiction may vary. So take this with a grain of salt that we're talking about specifically Illinois and not about what may or may not happen if you're listening from elsewhere. So, okay, selling the house. It used to be that people could file motions to sell a house at any stage of a case, and a court would hear it in due course and may or may not, depending on what's going on, sell the house at that point. However, a few years ago, there's a case that came out called Gabrys, Gabrys, in re the marriage of Gabrys.
Wow,
but,
you know the case name. I'm impressed.
Yeah, that's
all right.
There we go.
Good for you. Right.
Top of mind.
Excellent.
Maybe I know a thing or two. About a thing or two. So
it's almost like you know what you're doing.
almost. So that case
thing figured out.
Yeah, exactly right. So that case essentially is set for the proposition. Well, the part we're talking about anyway is for the proposition that you cannot sell a house during the pendency of your divorce case because courts can only really typically enter quote unquote temporary orders. Selling a house is not temporary, it's permanent. And so you can't really do that except for what the court really says are quote unquote exigent circumstances. Exigency could exist most typically when you have a house that might be, for example, going into foreclosure.
Right.
You're not able to afford it. The lenders are coming after you. You have to sell it to quote unquote preserve the marital estate because the more or the longer it goes, depending on what it's worth, what you owe, you might be eating into the equity that you might have in the house or increasing your deficiency balance owed in a potential short sale. So the key really would be to get the house sold in that sense to really preserve the marital estate. So unless there's an exigent circumstance now in Illinois, a court will not sell a house when your divorce case is still going on. Now, caveat here is while the court won't do it, two parties can agree to mutually sell the house, and a court will not stop you from doing that. So
isn't this, I've been doing this a long time. And in the old days before this case, generally the answer was the court would never, it was really, that was the way judges did it, but it just,
mhm,
there wasn't a case. So judges would say, I'm not going to sell the house until the case is done. And they
right.
didn't use the temporary order issue really is correct. That's really what the judges were saying. They just didn't say it that way. They'd say, well, it's too soon to sell. There's no reason to do it now, blah, blah, blah. And then, but if there was an unusual thing like a foreclosure, they might do it. But yeah, I would usually tell clients, good luck getting the house sold until the
Mhm,
case is done. And that was
right.
generally the case. And, but yeah, that case kind of doesn't codify, but puts in writing what the judges
Creates
had
precedent.
done.
Right.
Yeah, it does create precedent about
Mhm,
realistically what the judges have been doing operationally for a long time.
mhm.
So what about the
Order of operations, right? So, okay.
yeah,
So
right.
no. So now that you know about what happens regarding selling a house, obviously the answer is one is not tied to the other.
Right.
Financial is separate, kids are separate, parenting is separate. So there's no relationship between selling a house and obviously parenting schedule. That being said, as you might now know, either it gets done at the same time, which is at the end of the case where the judge decides parenting and selling the house, or parenting gets done first by agreement.
Right.
It sounds to me like they have agreed on this sort of, or potentially agreed on this, or it's been recommended about a 50-50 split. And, the question, I guess, for our purposes was how rigid or how wired tight is this, or should it be a little bit more lax, by agreement of the parties? Well, sort of the cornerstone of joint decision making or 50-50 is this notion that the two of you can come to an agreement. Otherwise, you
Right.
can never have joint decision making if you can't even decide who makes a decision. So, i- so yeah, so you really wanted to say it by agreement. If you have like a computer program where there's a rule for everything, there's
Right.
like a sequence of operations, like if this, then that, et cetera, everyone's going to be tripping up with their feet for the
That's
most
right.
simple, basic things. So the best allocation judgments are usually where parties get along and it's like a very short document that's vague and just sort of hits the highlights. You guys
Yep.
have 50-50. You get them Monday, Tuesday, they get them Wednesday, Thursday, and you flip weekends. For example, it could be whatever. But for example, you guys are going to split holidays according to this. You guys will make decisions jointly. One will call the other, and there's sort of this fluid thing. The more rules you make, the more rules you break.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And it's a two-way street, right? That's the thing people always think about is, what was the other guy? They think about how it's going to affect the other person as if they're never going to come back at them on some issue. And so when you have these wired tight parenting agreements or provisions that are really too buttoned down, they blow back on the party who thinks it's only going to be used one way.
mhm.
Classic examples, the boyfriend girlfriend rule,
Oh
where
yeah,
it's like, oh, you got to disclose no boyfriend girlfriend can see the kids for 6 months. It has to be a serious relationship, blah blah blah. And those are really what I call aspirational provisions. You just hope that that's the case. There's like no way to enforce them, and people freak out about it. And it's just like, good luck enforcing it. Good luck
right.
having a judge say, oh, the boyfriend can't see the kids until X number of months have passed. But the killer is, it goes back the other way. Then this one spouse says, I want this provision in there because I don't want him to fill in the blank. I don't want my husband to run around with some girlfriend and with the kid in the kid's face 3 months after he meets her, blah, blah, blah. And then guess what? She meets a dude and now is upset when the husband comes back. The ex-husband comes at her and says, wait a second, you didn't introduce this, but you didn't tell me about this guy and give me notice before I see the kids. It's just one example about how overly prescriptive language can bite you in the butt.
It leads to scorekeeping, and you
Yeah.
don't want to keep score.
No, and these things need to be flexible by definition because the kids' lives are constantly changing and so are
Mhm.
yours.
Yeah,
So there is no computer program perfect allocation judgment or custody judgment.
right.
And people that want that are cruising for a bruising because they're just going to make themselves miserable with the balance sheet, what I call balance sheet parenting. And people are like, make up weekends and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
You can drive yourself crazy with administrative stuff on this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's a great answer. Thank you.
Mm.
Um, so let's move on. We got, oh, this is a good one. All right.
About
So
lazy men, right? Right. If you're going to talk about lazy men.
yeah, it's terrible. All right. So I got to stick up for the boys here. All right. So I came across this article. This is fresh, just dropped December 1st. For those of you listening, our show is live streaming today on December 4th, and it'll be published 8 days from now. So Friday, the 12th, it will be published in edited form. So this is pretty fresh info. This article by Melissa Afshar of Newsweek. Straight millennial men, this is me quoting, straight millennial men are failing to make enough effort on dating apps, contributing to what some describe as a broader dating crisis, in quotes, according to new findings from Feeld, F-E-E-L-D, a relationship app geared toward the open-minded. And if you go Google it, if you kids don't Google it, if you do Google it, you will see it is geared towards the open-minded. So it's not your standard, it's more Tinder than Plenty of Fish. For those of you, okay, I did a little research for you folks. Okay, Field's report, apparently they publish reports. State of Dating Volume 4, which indicates there are 3 other volumes. I have not
Prior
read
volumes.
them. Yes, Volume 4. It's like an album, volume, whatever. Examine the dating app habits of over 2,500 members, analyzing how individuals engage with dating platforms. And they ended up slamming the boys, folks. It's terrible. The data put together with help of Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Mona Chalabi, and this is me quoting the story in Newsweek, suggests cultural shifts in user habits, especially those of straight men, may be compounding frustrations in the search for satisfying romantic connection. So this is what this reporter chose to focus on. Nearly 7 in 10 of the straight millennial men surveyed say they have never or rarely updated their profiles since first creating them. Field describes this reluctance, the app, as an obstacle to connection, particularly in modern dating landscape defined by new challenges. So they talked to a dating service person, matchmaker, and they said this person was quoted as saying, many straight millennial men aren't updating their profiles because they're emotionally disengaged from the process of dating, not necessarily from the idea of partnership. The celebrity voice impersonated by me, by the way. There have been so many mixed messages sent about masculinity by the media in recent years that have left men feeling discouraged before they even begin. Well, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I'll give some credit to that, because it's kind of like, am I supposed to put the picture of the fish on there with me? Do I put the stormtrooper costume outfit, my cosplay on there? Do I have my Funko Pops behind me? Guys, don't do any of these things. All right, you're killing yourself with this stuff. Anyway, she added, men stop investing their time and energy when effort hasn't historically guaranteed results. Now, we've talked about this, the height issue before, the fact that women are only choosing 10% of the men on these apps. So I think there's an understandable amount of exhaustion with this stuff. So it says, that can show up as outdated photos. This is a quote from the date matchmaker. His name is Amber Lee. Outdated photos, minimal bios, and a passive mindset. Many straight women, meanwhile, desire for a man to take the lead and show more effort. Now, I will tell you, having 2 sons who are in their 20s, they tell me it's tough out there. So they say it's kind of brutal out there. And they say women don't know what they want. Now, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but they say like they want a guy to take a lead, then they don't. And, so we're not trying to start a war here between the men and women. So anyway, thought it was kind of a funny story. So, but blaming the dudes for it though, when I'll tell you, the guys will tell you that the women are tough on there and that they'll start chatting with somebody, that they'll abandon the chat and leave them hanging, and that, they'll ghost them and not meet them in real life and all this stuff. Right. And they say, women are talking to 10 guys on the app and I'm just one of them. And they're just waiting for a better opportunity, blah, blah, blah. It's tough out there, folks. Rahul and I've said this before.
Yep.
Level the playing field. Go meet people in real life where that static and that competition isn't happening. IRL, baby. Because it's just like advertising on Google. If you're doing Google ads, you're competing against everybody else doing Google ads. When you show up in person, they can't ignore you. You're right there.
Exactly. You're right
And
there.
you know, wear a fabulous outfit, put on a shacket, go in there, you know, knock them dead. Also, I recommend original polo. Don't use all the derivations.
What's the original polo color? Is it green?
Green, baby. That's
Yeah,
the
that's right.
old school.
That's
That's the
right.
old school. I still wear it. The classic
Mm-hmm.
from prom 1986 to now. Still works.
If you smell that polo, Rafe's around.
Yeah, that's how you know. Yeah. All right, enough of that. So let's move on. Rahul, tell us about the pièce de résistance, which I just pronounced correctly for you
Nice.
francophones. Thank you. I took conversational French in college. Tinder's predictions for dating in 2026.
Yes. So every year they release these predictions, and then they release one of these like year in reviews. So the release of these, it's a Mashable article that came out yesterday, December 3rd, 2025. Yesterday
Timely.
for those listening live, and December 3rd for those listening in the future. So
We bring fresh content to you folks
yes,
weekly.
nothing
This is-
stale.
No.
So according to this, there's about 4 trends or year and swipe. You know, last year the dating app thought that its users will be quote unquote micro connecting and intentional this year. So what about for next year, right? So one, they're saying daters will be upfront about what they're looking for.
Okay.
I mean, sure.
Good.
Tinder, I guess I'm quoting the article, calls this clear coding. Not only do daters know what they want, but they want it to be known. So
Okay.
64% of 4,000 young singles between 18 and 25 told Tinder that emotional honesty is what dating needs most, while 60% are calling for clearer communication around intentions. So I guess it's like, tell me where this is going, all right? What are
Right.
we doing here? Being apolitical is still out. So singles have, I guess, since the lockdown, so I guess it's referring to COVID 2020, and the subsequent US election, singles have cared more and more about potential partners' politics. So Tinder calls this hot take dating.
Huh. Interesting.
What's your hot take is what I guess it's about.
Yeah,
and
right.
So 41% of young singles wouldn't date someone with opposite political views. So you could do back in the day where you could say, I'm not really into politics. And me too. Okay, let's talk. You know, it's all good.
Right.
Nowadays it's like, well, which way do you lean? Which way are you, who are you rooting for? And if I like you or I don't, I guess. So,
Man.
okay.
Okay.
That being said, it says 46% would still consider it, but that breaks down only to 35% of women and 60% of men.
Now that is interesting. That is a huge difference.
Huge.
What they're saying is 1/3 of women would consider dating somebody with different political views, but 60% of men would. That's a huge difference.
Exactly. Tinder also identified some principle-based deal breakers, such as racial justice, a deal breaker for 37% of daters, and LGBTQ rights, 32%. And 36% consider family values as a deal breaker.
Okay.
The next trend is that the group chat will be the best matchmaker, essentially people setting up their friends. And one more is to be emotionally available. I think that kind of loops into what the first trend was, which is being clear with your intentions. And then finally, daters aren't afraid to use AI. So this isn't an official trend, but I guess that's where the world's going. Everybody uses AI in some form now. Any Google search, any use of Gemini or ChatGPT, name your flavor, right? Everyone's on some AI these days, even on your phone with Apple Intelligence or Galaxy, whatever they have on their
it's like
platform.
It's baked into all these apps.
Exactly. So yeah. So the top word daters use to describe dating in 2026, according to the article, is hopeful.
All right. Well, we shall see, folks.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Catch you on the flip side.
We're in holiday season now. It's Hallmark, vibes season. So good luck out there.
Yeah.
And guys, you can always do the polo shacket thing and go IRL and meet the babe of your dreams. So good luck to you out there. And ladies, good luck out there. Be nice to these boys. They're trying.
Exactly.
But that's all anything else on that? That's interesting story.
Yeah, interesting.
I like it because I think it's cool. These apps do this to get some publicity, and obviously it works. And it's sort of like Pantone announcing the color for the coming year, where they say like, this coming year it's hot teal or whatever, and then we're supposed to buy cars in that color or whatever.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Rahul, how can folks find you online?
You can find me online at Chicago Divorce on Instagram and on
Nice.
LinkedIn.
All right. And so, folks, just please remember, we're at STG Divorce Law in Chicago. We're your favorite divorce lawyers. How smart, successful people get divorced in Chicagoland. And now featuring billboards at the 294 and 290 interchange. For those of you heading southbound at 294, check out our billboards. They're to the east of the interchange, and they are amazing. And I've got my best-selling book. We'd be remiss if we wouldn't mention that the podcast name comes from I Just Want This Done, How Smart, Successful People Get Divorced Without Losing Their Kids' Money and Minds. Available on Kindle, Amazon, and Rahul, what do we always say?
And where all great ebooks are sold. And Nook, by the way.
And Nook, correct. We don't leave you Barnes & Noble people hanging. So we serve all types here. It's fine. So thank you very much for listening and watching. And please like, share, subscribe. Let us know you like the show. And we'll keep bringing this content to you. By the way, dating matchmaker Blaine Anderson, her interview is pushed to mid-January. She had a conflict with her show. And we have a lawyer, real interesting lawyer from California, originally from Germany, probably coming on mid-December. In the next show, we'll announce that if that goes through, but we're planning for that. Should be a real interesting discussion about divorce law in the age of AI in the middle of the show. So, and she's a real interesting person, kind of a cool person with interesting background that you guys will find fun to talk to or listen to. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day. Take care.
Thanks.